What if the biggest threat AI poses to your future isn't what most people think it is?
Because right now, everybody's talking about job automation, job loss, content, speed, efficiency. But there's a deeper shift happening underneath the surface that I don't think enough people are really paying attention to.
And it may have less to do with technology itself and more to do with what happens to trust, connection, and human relationships when everything starts to feel artificial.
That's what makes this conversation so important. Because AI can absolutely help you move faster, create more, work smarter. But it also raises a big question. In a world where anyone can generate almost anything, what actually makes someone believable? What makes someone matter?
And today we're talking with Razy Shah about that exact tension, how AI is reshaping business, marketing, content creation, and the workplace, but also why the people who thrive in the next era may not be the ones who have the best tools.
They might be the ones that understand something older, something deeper, something a lot of people are starting to forget.
We get into trust, quiet visibility, real networking, genuine relationships, and why you may be a lot closer to your next big opportunity than you think you are.
This is episode 183 of the Five Guys podcast with Razy Shah. Let's get into it.
Razy Shah, thank you for joining me here at the Five Guys podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. For our audience, Razy is the author of Winning in the Age of AI, How Trust and Human Connection Create the Real Competitive Edge. Razy, what prompted you to write this book?
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me on the Five Guys podcast. What prompted me to write this book? A multitude of reasons. I think I've been speaking to a number of people about why I wrote this book. And when I share it with them, sometimes what comes up is that they feel that I wrote this book for myself. What I mean by that is AI is it's here. I run a marketing agency, and it's one of the first things that happened. So in January of 2023, when ChatGPT became publicly available, all my agency owner friends and myself, we were also concerned like, hey, this AI thing is going to be putting us out of business. It's going to put all these marketers out of business, and as things have gone by, you can see that a lot of companies are laying people off because of AI. And there is this real fear around being redundant. There's this real fear of your skills and your experience that you've spent all these years accumulating no longer being of value in the marketplace. So when we talk about all of these things, we talk about your employability, your value in the marketplace. Are you able to command the salary for the experience that you have? So when we look at this, there's a lot of fear around redundancy. There's a lot of fear around being laid off. So when I was looking back at how I've built my business over the last 14 years, I thought this book, Winning in the Age of AI, is a book that will help professionals, help business owners prepare themselves so that they can thrive and they can win in the age of AI. And how they can do that, I will share as we go along in the conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit. You run a marketing agency. What was that time like after ChatGPT released for marketing in specific? Like, what was going on in that made you be like, we need to write this for this, or is it for all industries that AI like really changed things?
I feel that when ChatGPT first came out in Jan of 2023, initially it seems that it's going to be like impacting agencies, impacting marketers. But then since then, I mean, 3 years on, it seems that it is clear that it's going to impact everyone. You know, when we look at reports, they say that it's going to be AI is going to automate or displace 70% of white collar jobs, depending on who you read. Some will say 70%, some will say 90%. So when I looked at my own marketing agency, so when ChatGPT first came, I had a client that I was serving for about 5 years, since 2018. And what we used to do was we used to write content for them on their blog, on their website. So there's a large insurance company. And one of the things that happened in, I think, March or April of 2023, they said, hey, look, our HQ has decided that we are going to be using ChatGPT to write all of this content because we know that it can do it faster, better, cheaper. And I lost this client. Can you imagine? So this client, 5 years, we've been working with them. They're like, okay, look, we don't want to work with you guys anymore because we have this this more efficient tool. And since then, actually, demand for our content writing services, uh, it has no longer been the same. So and now it's trickling as AI gets better. I mean, we've seen their agents. You've seen OpenClaw and all the magical things you can do. You've seen Claude Cowork, Claude Skills. All of these things are impacting marketing services. Like I'll give you a really good example. We do social media marketing for clients. We have to make carousels because carousels are one of the best performing content type on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So we have to make these carousels. But if you look at what Claude can do now, or even Manus for that matter, you can actually teach the skill to create carousels in your brand voice, with your brand guidelines, with your brand images, and he can do it within minutes. And that's something we charge clients thousands of dollars on a retainer for. And now this is here, and eventually clients will get smart, will become aware of this, and there will be a downward pressure on the price of this service, or they might say, hey, look, we're just gonna do this ourselves. We build up a cloud skill, and then we can just do this ourselves, and we don't need the agency. So there's a lot of existential doubt when it comes to the longevity of our business. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that here in America, Razi, very recently there have actually been two or three different like fire bombings of people trying to blow up data centers or trying to burn down data centers. I believe Sam Altman's house was recently someone like threw a Molotov cocktail at it. Um, do you feel as this is beginning to change, as we're transitioning towards this new world of AI, that a lot of people are going to get left behind?
in, that's what it seems like, that a lot of people are going to get left behind. But like I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were also discussing about how, like, all of it seems doom and gloom. But whenever there's a crisis, there's always an opportunity, right? So it's just that there are a lot of opportunities that are also available. But I think right now, for most of us, for most of the world, we're very fixated on the old way of doing things going away, and how that's threatening us, and that's causing a lot of fear. And I think most of us, we're not seeing this as an opportunity, right? Yeah, that's
I would agree with that. I think a lot of people, I think it's like human nature, right? It's our 10,000-year-old brain in our modern day body that we look for the threat, because if we look for the good thing, that's all well and good, but if you look for the threat, that's going to keep you alive. That's going to allow you to propagate your genes a bit more.
yeah.
But what do people do right now during this transition time? Because we can look to points in history, maybe the loom, when we finally found electricity, when the internet came, where yes, things changed a generation or two later. The world was much better. But for the generation that went through that change, there was people who never came back, full generations who like never got back to where they were. So how do we try to do this well? Because this transition is something that I believe is existential, and that's completely different. In most times in history, when there was a big transition, human beings were still at the control, they were still at the helm of that. But now AI has its ability to have its own cognition and think outside of the normal way that a human being would, and could, honestly, like take over the world, or do whatever it's going to do. So how do we try to do this as well as we can?
Well, I mean, what I suggest to my friends, to my family, to my team, um, is, I mean, to have an open mind. Like, when it comes to these tools, to have an open mind, to use them. There's initially, with some of my even if you look at some of my own team, there was a lot of resistance to using AI, because they feel like, hey, AI is like cheapening their expertise. It is not going to be as good, especially in the early days. It used to come up with really poor content. If you look at the images, they used to be really, the six whole thing about six fingers, and the strange things used to come up with. So there's a lot of pushback back then. So what I would suggest is to have an open mind to try these tools. But the challenge then is, the tools are evolving so fast. Like, even for me, like, I was trying to keep up, because I teach this at an academy here on how to use these AI tools, and I've always been on the treadmill of trying to keep up. And the changes are so fast. They like happen so consistently. I was doing a workshop. I had all my screenshots ready. on the same night, overnight, the interface had changed and what the tool could do had evolved. So these things are evolving really fast. So what I've recommended in my book is we need to double down on our humanity. What I mean by that is, if you look at most of us, those of us who live in cities, in places like the US and Singapore, we while we are very connected, but we're also very isolated. So we just go about our routines. We just spend time on social media, but we're very isolated. So one of the things that I'm advocating in my book is that we need to double down on humanity. What do I mean by that? We need to go out and build our networks. We need to nurture our networks. We need to add value to our networks. And just bring back that human connection. I think in the end of the day, when in the age of AI, our humanity is what's going to be our advantage, and that's something I'm advocating in this book.
Do you believe, because there still are like physics to finances, there's physics to life, in that we still need to be able to pay for the things that we need? Do you feel that focusing on these human connections is still going to be able to provide you the money that you need to still be able to live your life, especially like live your life well?
Yeah. I mean, I have many examples in this book. Maybe as we go along, I will share with you. So one of the things when I say double down on your humanity, what I mean by this is, if you look at everyone who's been unfortunately made redundant because of AI, or they've lost their jobs in the past year. I think there was a article last week. Oracle laid off 30,000 people across the world, with a 6 a.m. email. And imagine when you're competing with everyone else. So these days, I hear from people, they say, "Hey, I've applied for 200 jobs. No one replied. I sent 400. I sent resumes to 400 jobs. No one replied." And the thing is, when we send our job applications into these companies, they're also using AI to sieve through it. And when there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying for the same position, it is very difficult for you to rise up or to be considered. So when we talk about doubling down on your humanity, it's important to have the connections, to know people who trust you, who believe that you're right fit, and they can recommend you, right? So when I look at my own, when I look at some of the things that I've talked about in the book, I mention examples from my own life of running this marketing agency for 14 years. So I talk about how I gave value. So there was this, I'll give you a story. So there was this restaurant owner. He just set up a hot pot restaurant, and he wanted to do Facebook marketing, but he had no budget to engage an agency. So it's like, "Hey, Razi, can you teach me all that you know?" So generally, you think that, okay, this guy runs a small little hot pot restaurant, has no budget. Logically, it tells you should move on to a bigger opportunity, or should spend your time on a bigger opportunity. I was like, never mind, let me help this guy. So for a small token sum, I spent 3 hours with him. I taught him all the things that I knew about Facebook marketing. So he ran his business for 5 years. 5 years later, he went and he became a senior manager at a real estate company, and they were looking for a marketing agency. And guess who he recommended? Me,
I'm going to
right?
guess you.
Because he remembered me, right? And because I had given him value, and we got that business from that real estate company. So the point here is that it's important to build our network. It's important to nurture our network, because these are the connections that can then help you know you. They trust you. They know that you're the right person for the job, and you can then earn that living. And at the end of the day, it's important that you have built that trust, that you have the right connection, so they can help you find the opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that something that's very difficult when I try to coach people on the longevity aspect, on building up trust, building up connection, is that a lot of people push back and like, I hear you what you're saying, and I know that it's important, but I need to have success, or I need to get to where I need to go right now. And when you start to consolidate or shrink your timeline down to like, I need immediate results, the things that you need to do don't build trust or connection. They're actually the opposite. So how do you get people to start to focus on this longer time horizon of finding success, especially in an age of AI where things are changing faster than I believe they ever have in human history. Like
Yeah.
the our ability to adapt is not that good as humans, yet we have to in order to stay relevant.
And I mean, we all want, everybody wants quick results. We want excellent results, fast results with minimal effort. That's always been there. It doesn't matter whether the age of AI or not. Um, I mean, I was the same, to be honest. Like when I started my digital marketing agency in 2012, I also needed quick results. I also needed clients immediately. I never knew that 14 years later I will be doing the things that I'm doing. Like investing in startups, teaching at universities, running a completely different business in two different countries. I never thought those things would happen. So again, if you're looking for quick results, unfortunately, I mean, when it comes to human connection, earning trust, that doesn't happen fast. The way you could game it, which I don't advocate, is unfortunately in this day and age, one of the things that builds trust really quickly is people look at how many followers you have on social media platforms, and there are many ways to game that. And again, I feel that when it comes to trust, human connection, there's no shortcut to it. Unfortunately, there's one really interesting story in my book. So the way I've structured the book, there are three parts to it, and each chapter has a principle, and I share a story from business or from the real world. Then I have how do you apply this principle, and then I show you how I've lived this principle myself in my life. And then there's a section on winning with AI. So there's a really interesting story about this guy called Joe Girard. Have you heard of him?
Uh, no, can you tell me a story?
So he has the Guinness World Record for being the guy who is the most successful retail salesman of all time. So he used to be selling, I think, Chevrolet cars. He was a car salesman. So on average, a good car salesman would sell 5 cars in a month. This guy used to sell 6 cars in a day.
Wow.
Right. So if you go and Google him, he's got his whole website, and he's got I've been audited by Deloitte. You can get the audit to see whether or not these claims are true, and his Guinness World of Records recognize him. So what he used to do was he used to actually handwrite notes to every single person who'd come through his showroom, and all he used to say is like, "I like you," and he'd send, I think, thousands and thousands of these letters, and over time he built this reputation where people knew him, liked him, and they saw this consistent action that he was taking. And it's not scalable. I mean, to do this consistently with all of your customers over an extended period of time is not something that all of us will do, right? Not few people actually go that distance doing all of these things, and he did it, and he became very successful. And again, what I'm trying to highlight here is that he did something that is not immediate. I can write you a card now, Chris, but you just receive one card and you're like, okay, and you'll forget about it. But if I did it consistently over years, I remember your birthday, I send you. I remember your kid's birthday. If I send you a gift on Thanksgiving, for example, that small little action over an extended period of time is what will make you trust me, will make you remember me, and I'll be top of mind. And when you need a car, you would think of me, for example, if I was Joe Girard. So I'd say, I mean, there's no shortcut. I mean, do you have any shortcut way to build trust or gain human connection in this age?
I think the best way is to be curious, like to try to learn as much as you can about people.
Yeah,
I feel like too many people they all want the shortcut, right? They want the secret, and maybe the secret is there are no secrets. Like it
yeah,
takes time, it takes effort, it takes consistency.
yeah. I think to add to what you just said, yeah, it's like I was saying, there's a lot of opportunity in the age of AI, right? So if you look at what these tools can do, they talk about how now you can vibe code, so you don't need to know how to code. You can just can build an app that you've always wanted to build, and you can deploy it, and you can start monetizing it. So you can do these small experiments really fast, and you can see the success. But again, it is not going to be overnight. It will take time. I think there was a really famous story of a boy who recently he vibe coded an app where you can take a picture of your meal. It'll tell you all the calories and whatnot. And I think it was making like 100,000 or something like that per month. And I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but he built something that he knew people wanted, and he's seen success. And I think he did it with a very small team. So there's a lot of opportunity. You can do a lot of things with very small teams, or just yourself. And if there's a good product market fit, I think you can shorten the timeline to success or getting money quick. But it's still not going to be without effort. There's still effort that's needed. There's still um, an investment of time as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think so many people, they want to have the success without having to put in the effort, without having to put in anything, and they just want that success because they feel that they're uniquely gifted to have it and no one else deserves it except for them. I'd like Razi to get into some of the top principles that you like to talk about from your book in how we can try to win in this new age, in this age of AI.
So I've got the book. I've got the book in front of me. So before the call, I actually start some of these principles. So one of the things I talk about was one of the chapters talks about building quiet visibility, and the thing about building quiet visibility. The story in there is it's about this venture capitalist. He wanted to attract opportunities or startups to come to him, and so that he could invest in them. And what he did was he launched this not podcast, he launched a blog called A Venture Capitalist, AVC. And every day he used to blog and share his thoughts around startups, around investing, around fundraising. And he did it consistently, I think, for a good 20 years. He's recently moved on to do other things, but he blogged consistently for 20 years. So he ended up building this thing called quiet visibility. So he was visible, he was answering and addressing pain points and questions that his target audience has. And they eventually started sharing those blog posts. They eventually started gravitating towards him. I think he ended up investing in companies like Duolingo, Etsy, all these successful companies that we know of. So when we think about how we can apply it ourselves, like I said, in the age of AI, everybody has access to the same tools. Everyone has access to the same information. We need to find a way to make ourselves visible without being in people's faces, without like spamming them with lots of WhatsApp messages. So how could you make yourself quietly visible? One of the things I've done is I have sent out a newsletter consistently for the past 6 years. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m., this newsletter goes out, and that newsletter has helped me stay top of mind, and has brought me opportunities for my marketing agency. Another thing you could do, again, for building visibility, LinkedIn posts. Interestingly enough, whenever I post on LinkedIn, when I go for events or when I go for even social gatherings, people are like, oh yeah, Razi, I read your post, or you've been doing this. But then I know that they didn't engage with the post, or they didn't like it. But because I've been posting consistently, they know what they want to engage me about, or what they want to talk to me about in these gatherings. So I feel one thing that one needs to do is to build some form of quiet visibility. And AI tools do give you an ability now to put down your thoughts, your observations, your thoughts, and eventually be known for something within your industry. So that was one. I mean, there are 18 different chapters in this, but this was one of my favorite ones. Another one is around making introductions that matter. So a lot of times, one of the things that I do is I make introductions to people in my network who don't know each other. So a good example from the story is a famous one from Google, about how they got introduced by to this VC, and I think they wrote them a very significant check. And this introduction was necessary because the introduction immediately opened doors for them, immediately got them in front of the right person who could then influence their fundraising, influence their success. So one of the things I advocate is making introductions, and I always do that. So when I find two people that have some form of commonality, or that I feel they could work together, I make an introduction, and that just adds value to my network. And so what I talk about winning in with AI, or winning by making introductions that matter is that look at your network, look at the people that you meet. Maybe you met a, I don't know, a simple example, maybe you met a photographer. See who in your network is looking for photography services. You can connect this particular individual. So I one of the chapters that I recommend is this: make introductions that matter. The other one is playing the long game. I think this is something we just talked about earlier, and it's very difficult playing the long game, because if you want immediate results, this point wouldn't work. But playing the long game, an example of this is I have a story of that from my own life. So for me, I've um, I've always believed in adding value to people and making sure that all the actions that I take, right, build a good story or build a good reputation of myself, and then in the long run, you plant enough of these seeds, eventually you will be able to harvest a very nice orchard. So it's one needs to play the long game. So again, that's something that I advocate. And the last one is actually you're one relationship away from the success that you're looking for. So there's this whole chapter around, I think, Jamie Foxx and Ed Sheeran. So
Mhm.
apparently, Jamie Foxx talent spotted him in a way, like gave him an opportunity, brought him, opened the doors, helped him get some auditions, and helped him become an even bigger success. And the idea here is you're one relationship away from the industry you want, the industry you want to be in, the job that you want. So an example is, for myself, after building my marketing agency, it's still there. I was looking at what else could I do, and I was very interested in the world of startups and angel investing. And I have no background in it. I have no I have not been a VC. I have no like credentials around it. So what I did was I started going for these events where startups are pitching, where VCs are there, where early stage accelerators are there, and I met someone. We connected over a common startup that we invested in, and I ended up becoming a venture partner in their accelerator. So the idea is that you need to it's just one relationship away. So you need to go for events, you need to go for places, you need to nurture relationships with people who can then get you into the field that you're looking for. I wanted to be a trainer, a corporate trainer. One of my friends, he was already doing corporate training, and he helped me open the door into that. So like if you're not part of this ecosystem, you can start going in there, meeting people, showing up. You don't make the ask immediately. You show up consistently, half a year later, and then eventually a relationship within that, a connect within that can then open the door for you and bring you into that world that you want to go into. So there's some of the few different chapters that I feel are interesting, that are useful, and again, I illustrated with my own life and how that has panned out for me.
Wonderful. I noticed in the four examples that you gave as your favorite principles from the book that three of them didn't really seem to have anything to do with AI or like using AI to enhance those. The
Yeah,
first one, obviously, being able to LinkedIn post or being able to post to social media to stay top of mind, we can certainly use AI. So I'd like to double click on that. Let's go back to the beginning of it and
yeah,
say, in what ways can we use AI today in order to help us to stay front of mind for people? Because from what I see in my LinkedIn post or from my emails is, and what I feel is that people are just using AI slop to like just get in front of people, and at that
yeah.
point, it's a turnoff. So how do we ride this knife's edge of staying relevant, staying top of mind for somebody, but not also bombarding them, not directly by sending them a bunch of emails, but just by showing up in their feed 1,000 times with a bunch of, I'm going to say, like bullshit that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. One of the things I share with people who've asked, a lot of people have asked me the same question, so, or a similar question, and the thing is, we can all use the same prompt. We will all get some. It, it will be a post that it can do the job, but it will be somewhat generic. And I think what's important is where you add in your lived experience, where you edit your insight. The thing about AI, I mean, it can't go have a coffee with say a book publisher and look at pages, look at different paper quality. That's something that I've done. I mean, I can do. And then when I make my post about meeting this publisher, I can add in that little bit about paper quality and how I selected things. So the idea here is, yes, you can generate content at scale. Yes, it can sound like you because you could record your voice, and it will learn how you write. You can correct yourself, and the agent will fix the writing to make it sound more like you. But I think what you need to bring in is bring in your humanity, bring in your lived experience, bring in your observation and your expertise, and that's where your post will stand out among the rest. If you're just doing AI slop, I mean, it's just putting content that AI generates 100% out there. I think it is going to lack those factors. So usually for my own posts, yes, they are generated with AI, but I make sure that I add in my lived experience, my own observation that the AI doesn't have. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe it will have eventually. With regards to the other ones where you said it doesn't have an AI component, what I've done is at the end of every section, there's a winning with AI. So I say, okay, look, if you want to apply this principle, how do you use AI to then get it to for you to like put in feed it data so that you can surface some insights for you, and then you use AI to get those insights and then take action on those insights.
Could we go over some of those? I'd love to hear how we can use AI, because I think too many people, when they think of AI, they think it's the godsend that's going to change everything. Where
Yep.
in general, it should be the thing that helps you to adapt faster.
Yep.
To you use it as a leverage, not as the thing that fixes the. It's not the. I don't know what word to even use, but it's not the thing that is going to fix all the problems, but it can help you. It's a tool in your tool belt. But too
Yep.
many people are looking at it as the solution.
I'll give you an example. I mean, I don't. Let me pull out a business card. I have a business card here. Let me pull it out. So like let's. I mean, I don't know whether you guys in the US you still use these business cards. So the thing about business cards is like whenever I meet people, I would write notes on the business card, on the back of the business card. Like talk about what did we discuss at the event. Where did we meet? What was something interesting about them? I'll write it on a business card, and it's just in my Rolodex of physical business cards. And then if I want, I keyed into my CRM. But what we could do with AI is I mean, no, you could key in all of these. You can key in the person, the company they work for, where you met, and some of the interesting things about them. And then it becomes like your living database of all of these contexts. And then when you go to the AI, you can say, hey, you can even get it to keep track of when was the last time you messaged this person, and knowing where you met them, knowing some of the interesting things about them, knowing the context about the industry. Like for example, let's say this card. So this card is from someone who's from this company, from this organization called Enterprise Singapore. They do a lot of work around supporting small and medium enterprises in Singapore. If I was going to reach out to this person, yes, I know who. The AI knows where I met them. It knows those 3 points that I wrote down on the back of the card because I keyed it in. But I still need to go and research something that's going to be relevant for them, right? When I reach out to them. Using AI, the AI can surface something that's interesting in their industry or something that their organization has done. So when I send out the message, it becomes a lot more specific, and without being, it still has those things where only I knew because I met this person. You get what I mean? Because these days, I don't know whether you've been receiving the same. I get a lot of emails that say, "Hey, Razi, I saw you liked this particular post on LinkedIn and you said this." And when I see that, I'm like, okay, this is clearly AI, and it just turns me off against whatever they had to say. But when you use AI this way, where you put in all of your context into say a custom GPT or into a gem, that has got the knowledge of all of your contacts and all the things that you've done. You could ask it to, hey, I want to reach out to this particular person. Go and find out for me what's going on in the industry and give me a nice message to reach out to them. That's one way you could do it. Another way you could do it, which is a system that I'm trying to build for myself. There's a guy called Derek Sivers. So Derek Sivers started this company called CD Baby. CDBaby.com was the predecessor to what became iTunes, right? So he has this philosophy that you need to be in touch with people, and only when you're in touch with people will they remember you. So I think he's categorized people in like A context, B and C, and I think D. So A is like you reach out to them once a month. B is once a quarter. C is like once every biannually, and D is like once a year. So the thing is, you have this whole list of people and the categories that they're in. You could use AI to then help you keep this up to date. Like it can read your emails, you can update the spreadsheet for you, and you can keep up to date. You can really automate this entire thing. So I think like um, it helps you nurture your list. It helps you stay in touch, but it's also leveraging on AI. So it uses your human. Your humanity plus this AI, and I think it makes it a lot more powerful.
I'd like to get a bit more specific if we could, Razi. As you mentioned earlier, many of these tools they're coming out faster and faster, and it's
Yeah,
nearly impossible to keep up with like what's the right tool. Like I still use ChatGPT a lot for a lot
yeah,
of things, and when I tell people I still use Chat, they're like, "Oh, well, that's a terrible AI compared to these other platforms." And it's like
yeah.
I understand that I use these other ones as well, but like Chat is still one that I use. So where should people even start? Like, I feel like anytime you say like I'm doing this, there's somebody who's going to shoot you down saying that's stupid. You should be using this,
Yeah,
and a lot of people just throw their hands up and say I'm not even going to try.
yeah. Uh, what I share with people is that you need see you need to have a reason to use these tools. So sometimes when I speak to individual learners who come from my class and ask them, "Have you used ChatGPT?" Who has not used ChatGPT? Some hands will go up and they'll be like, "Oh, I've yet to use ChatGPT," and the reason why they don't use it, they say, "Oh, I had no real reason for using it, or I'm not aware of how it could benefit me." So the thing is, with these tools, first you need to have a reason to use it. So what I mean by this is, like, for example, I use it for my LinkedIn content. I use it for like keeping my list up to date, or reaching out to my list. So because I have a reason for using AI, I go and learn it. And let's take a simple example of creating content. So I create content on LinkedIn. I put it out there. I put an image of myself, and I see how people respond to it. And I want to do better. So the thing is, with the AI, I keep practicing, and the practice and using the tool keeps me up to date with all the changes that are happening. It makes me better at using the tool, right? Then so I was using a lot of Chat GPT. Then it's always important, like we were talking about earlier, about having an open mind. Go and take a look at what else people are talking about. People are talking about Gemini. So I started using Gemini, and I started building like a custom gem with Gemini. And I felt that it was a lot more efficient than doing things on Chat GPT. So I moved to this. And again, LinkedIn is the easiest place for me to test out this creation. It gives me a reason. I mean, you always need to have a reason to do something, right? Let's say I'm just doing these images of myself as Superman, or images of myself as the Dark Knight. I mean, where am I going to post these? Maybe on Instagram, So there needs to be a place for you to put out your AI creation, and that motivates you to take action, right? So that's what I would suggest to people. Like, find a reason, find a way to test and to put your AI creations out there in the world. So that's the basic stuff. When you become more adept at using these tools, you want to go one level higher. So, like, for example, with my LinkedIn, I manually create the post, then I'll manually create the image, and then I'll post them myself, all manually. But now what I'm doing is I've built um, an app using Livable, where I just vibe coded it. It now asks me a few questions. It knows who I am. It knows my style, and it can create like an entire week's or entire months of LinkedIn posts for me. And now my team is trying to add in one more level where it can automate creating images with my face. So then we can post it up. We can post it up on LinkedIn. So the short answer to this is, try the tool, and then be curious and try some other ones. I mean, the problem with AI tools is there's a lot of hype. People
Yeah.
tend to overhype them and say, "Oh, this tool is going to kill ChatGPT. This tool is a new Google killer." People just overhype and over sell these tools. I say just try one of. Don't get overwhelmed and want to know all of them. Pick those that your friends are talking about, your colleagues are talking about, try them, and then be open and try one other one or two other ones, and then from there you can discover which one is good. I used to use Claude, then I moved to ChatGPT, then I moved to Gemini, and then now that Claude has leveled up, I'm like, okay, let me go and look at what Claude can do now. And in recently, Manus AI got acquired by Facebook, by Meta. I think they got acquired for $4 billion or something like that. And I was like, okay, what is this Menace and what can it do? So I've been, I mean, a lot of these tools, they are free versions. So I've been doing a few tests on it to see what it can do. And then from there, I can then decide whether or not it is aligned to the quality of the output is aligned to what I was looking for.
So you believe that when you're testing these things, you don't need to go ahead and purchase the extended version. Just try the free version and like, test it out for
Yeah.
yourself.
I mean, if you buy the paid version for everything, it can get expensive really fast. I mean, all of these guys are charging $20. Imagine if you're paying paid subscription for 4 or 5 tools, there's going to be like $100 down each month. And usually we don't use all of these tools. It's just like any other subscription, right? You get a subscription, you don't use it, but you're still always on the paying it on your credit card without realizing it. So it's important to pick one or two and stick to it. Yeah. And you don't need, yeah,
Agreed.
like I said, you don't even need the paid version. Of course, the paid version is a lot, can do a lot more. It's a lot faster, but try the free version and then take it from there.
Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about. So I can hear from what you're talking about that works a lot, I think, well for maybe entrepreneurs. But what about people that are W-2 or they work for an employer? And right now they're seeing, oh man, I know there's mass layoffs happening in this department or that department, and now I'm starting to get worried it's coming from me. What can someone who works for a big corporation or for the boss, what can they do to level up their skills to really show like, hey, I bring value to this company? How can they use AI to as a tool to adapt themselves to be even better, to move faster?
Well, I would say, like I said, keep an open mind, experiment, try the tool, and see what aspects of your work it can help you it can make you more efficient at. And obviously, if you become too efficient at it, you might your boss might just use that and make you redundant, which is why you need to find what extra value add you can bring. What additional things that you could possibly do that will make you a lot more valuable. I'd say try go. I mean, there's a lot of fantastic resources on YouTube. Spend a weekend, go learn some of these things. You don't need to invest in like um, courses that are hundreds or thousands of dollars. Just find there's a lot of excellent resources on YouTube. Go watch some of these and see what you can do for your particular industry, and build something. Maybe you can build something that your company can then charge its clients for. Maybe they can charge the client on a retainer. It's like basically build something that can help your organization make more revenue, and that's where you become very valuable. I think as long as you are an employee that helps your company generate revenue, and the revenue can be attributed to you, you'll be highly valued, and it is
Okay.
possible with AI. Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, I guess that the human beings are very, very slow to change. Do you think overall that this AI, I mean, regardless of if we want it to be or not, like it's here and it's happening. Do you think that it's going to be a net positive for humanity and for our level of work, our level of connection, or do you think it's going to be a net negative when we play this game out to its conclusion?
No one knows. No one knows, right, whether it's going to be a net negative or net positive. If you look at some of the videos that are on YouTube, the podcast, they'll talk about how everyone is going to be jobless by 2027. There's someone who's saying, hey, look, all of us will be on universal basic income by 2030. We'll own nothing and we'll be happy. So there's a lot of scary predictions on what's going to happen. I would say, like what we were discussing earlier, to focus on the opportunity, focus on the positives. And one of the things that I've noticed is, at least in our part of the world, people have started, because it's like what you mentioned, there's so much AI slop. There is so many things that you see online that you can't trust. We can make videos. I can make a video of you, Chris, saying all kinds of things. It will be in your voice, it will look like you, and nobody can tell that it's not Chris. So people don't trust what they see online as much anymore. And what we're seeing is people are now spending more time going for events, like stepping out there, going for in-person events. People are meeting in person. People are doing a lot more things outside of the digital world, outside of the world of AI, because in the past was seeing was believing. Now it's like seeing in person is believing. So I'd say the net positive there is that like, people are moving away from the screens. They are stepping away from the digital world, going into the real world, and I think that's where that's definitely a positive for the world. But how this pans out, I have no idea.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I was actually speaking with my wife about that yesterday, how maybe the positive that has come out of AI thus far is that it's almost forced people to go back into the real world, because we can't, with AI, now that there's so many images and like the images are very compelling, like they look good. There's things where I'll look on my feed and I'll be like, oh my God, that happened. And then I'll look at a video and be like, I don't really know if this happened.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's objective truth or not, because typically objective truth used to be whatever we could, like, if it could be filmed or recorded, then like that was the closest thing we could get to objective truth. But now you can just create whatever the hell you want. So
Yeah.
it's maybe going to have this reverse effect where instead of AI getting us onto the internet or more socially stuck online in order to get our social feelings, in order to see what truth is, we have to go back into the real world, because it's going to put so much volume of information out there that's fake that we won't be able to delineate what is fact or fiction. But in real life, we can delineate what's fact and fiction because I saw it like right there and then.
Yep. I think one example, I mean, there's a lot of fake news out there, but one thing that I've seen in my industry, when it comes to social media, there's this thing called UGC, user generated content. So if someone, if a user, takes your skincare product, and talks about it and says great, and you should buy it. What's happening now is there's AI UGC. So you can create what looks like user generated content. You can create it at scale using AI avatars that look exactly like your target audience. You can get someone who's blonde, young, old, Asian, Caucasian, whatever you want. You can create at scale, and some brands or some products, I've seen them do this at scale, and the ordinary person, the man on the street, they can't tell that it's AI. They can't tell it's AI UGC. They end up trusting the product. They end up buying the product. So we're already seeing this on social and happening at scale. And I think just one small element of the challenges when it comes to this whole AI that is taking over our social media, is taking over everything. So that's why going out there, people want to go out and see things in person and meet other people, and I think that's it's a positive.
Yeah, it's getting worrisome in those regards, and that everything kind of comes down to marketing and supply and demand. We're just trying to create more demand in order to sell more
Yeah,
products, but sometimes those perverse incentives can really get in the way of trying to do the right thing, or whatever
yeah.
people want to say the right thing is. Have you noticed, like, as you're getting out there and communing with people, what is the best way to go about that? And I feel like it's a silly question to ask, like, how do we get back into the real world? How do we go and connect with human beings? Because it should be the most basic of questions. Yet I feel there's maybe full generations of people that like have literally no idea how to connect with human beings anymore.
It's it's okay. Let me. How do you connect with other human beings? What I suggest, s- some s- there are many ways to do this, of course. So the easier way is to go and join. I mean, there's all these meetup groups. Go and find something that you're interested in. For example, let's say you're interested in hiking in nature. There are a lot of hiking groups that meet up on every in Singapore. They meet up every weekend. You can go for a hike. You end up meeting people who have the same interest as you, right? So you can find interest groups. I mean, there's bus spotting groups. You can go and meet a bunch of people, go and spot buses together because you have a shared passion for buses. I was surprised to find out about bus bird spotting. I mean, there's so many things. So find what you're interested in. You can definitely find a group where people meet up regularly to pursue that interest. And the thing about these, right? If you come back to how is it going to impact you professionally, how is it going to impact your business, for example, you'd be surprised. Like with a lot of these events or these kind of meetup groups, you end up meeting people who can actually then connect you to a job, who can end up giving you business. Not immediately, like I said, you have to go and go for these sessions on a regular basis, be seen, and eventually people know you, they'll trust you, and then these opportunities come. So the first thing I would say, find look at what you're interested in and go and find those groups who are doing the same. The other place where you can go meet people is like you could join organizations, like there's chambers of, like in Singapore there's chambers of commerce. You can join associations, trade associations. So there's this commonality. So like I am in the American Chamber of Commerce. I meet all the American business owners, and we have this particular lots of events that happen, and it's another way to meet people. These days, ice bath clubs are very popular in Singapore. So people go and they sit in the ice bath, and there are other strangers in there, and then you just end up talking, and that's another way to meet. That's another way to meet people. Um, Unfortunately, in Singapore, or I think it's an Asian thing. People don't greet each other on the elevator or on the way to work. So there's a bit of a challenge. But I think if you're united by a common interest, by a common passion, or even by an association, these things can help. That's one. There's many ways. Another one is talking about visibility. If you're putting up content on, say, on LinkedIn or even on Instagram, you might get people who are a few steps behind you. Like for example, I get other marketing agency owners who just started out, who've already been in the business for a lesser time than me. They might message me and say, "Hey, can you give me some advice?" And that's another way to meet people that you can help. To meet people that you can mentor. I get a lot of messages from university students, and they want to get some mentoring. They want some advice, and again, you respond to those. You can meet them for a Zoom call if you want. You can meet for a coffee, and again, that's another way to meet people. I think that's many ways, and initially you will feel a bit, I mean, the tendency is if you're going to a new event, if you don't know anyone there, you will feel afraid to go there, right? But you show up enough times, it will become second nature. Like many years ago, I joined the British Chamber of Commerce. My first event I went for, I was like, okay, all of these are, back then I hadn't even been to the UK. I was like, all of these are British people. I have nothing in common with them. I was at the door and I was contemplating whether I should step in for this networking event. Thankfully, I did. And then I kept showing up. Eventually, people recognized me. People knew who I am, what I do. And then subsequently, whenever there's a new person and I look at them and I know that they've never been for the event before, I would then say, hey, who are they looking to meet? Who do they want to connect with? And I'd bring them and introduce them to those people. So I know I became the person who then connects them. So I'd say, yeah, there's going to be fear. But if you do it once, you do it twice, eventually you become accustomed to introducing yourself and to meeting people.
Yeah, I've always taught people the best way to make connection is I have like a little equation. It's proximity plus time plus alignment equals connection. So if you just like you put those things together, and I think too many people, when the internet came out, they thought, okay, this is how I'm going to find connection. This is how I'm going to finally connect with human beings is by
Yeah.
doing it at mass scale online. And it works. You might be able to go online and say, I have this many connections, but how many people do you have that you can call at nighttime when things go bad?
Yeah.
And like that's really the measure that you want to gauge yourself by. And the only way you do that is by getting to know somebody in real life. It's very hard to build a meaningful connection fully virtually.
Yeah.
Even like our conversation now, or most conversations are now had over Zoom. You do coaching, you do consulting, I do coaching and consulting, and there is a palpable difference that you can notice in someone's willingness to change or willingness to hear what you have to say
Yep.
when you're in person versus just this two-dimensional screen. Like that, being in 3 dimensions really does change things. And yes, it is scary, it's hard, but like you said, at some point you have to take that leap. Or if you want to get left behind, that's your choice, but you can't sit there and complain later that you got left behind when you chose to not move.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite examples that I share with people, right? So like when I started my marketing agency, my business partner, it was just me and him, just two of us. I had no network. And I never imagine that 14 years later I'll be doing all the things that I'm doing, like I mentioned, that I shared earlier, right? So I used to go for networking events, and at a networking event I met a guy who then introduced me to someone else, who then introduced me to the world of angel investing, and ended up investing in startups from that. I went for an event. I met this guy who was a trainer. So he used to train government officials, and we got to know each other. We ended up he ended up like trusting me, and then when there was an opportunity to find a backup trainer, he recommended me, and then I ended up being a corporate trainer as well. So the thing is, all of these events, by going for these events, by networking with people, by meeting people, you don't know who you're going to meet and what opportunities and what doors might open up, not immediately but many years down the road. It's a long game, right? So you have to start in the age of AI. You need to start meeting people. You need to start building these connections. You need to start building that trust. You need to start being known for something, so that eventually when the opportunity approaches, they know that you are the person that they should be calling for this particular task, or this particular job.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, especially for the audience to hear. When people would say like, "Oh, you just need to go network, you need to go and find people," a lot of younger people would say, "All right, I'm going to go network, and I'll do it for a month, I'll do it for a week, and if I don't get immediate results, then this networking thing isn't working out."
Yeah.
So I always think it's very important to coach people that if you are going to network, that you're doing something that you genuinely love to do. Like part of
Yeah.
my networking connection is like going to jujitsu. Like I don't go to jujitsu to find people to sell my business to. I go to jujitsu because I genuinely love it, and then you build a connection. Same with this
Yeah.
podcast. Like the way I get people on is just by doing something that I genuinely love, having a conversation and learning, and then you get to have it. But it takes time. It takes a little bit of effort consistently, and I think that's where most people give up. It's
Yeah.
not knowing what to do. It's having the consistency to follow through when things get boring.
Yeah. I think the other, just to add to that, I have friends who say, "Oh, I joined this business association. I'm a member. I paid the premium tier, but I got nothing out of it." I'm like, "Okay, did you go event? Did you go attend the events? Did you see how you could contribute and contribute to the members of that association?" They're like, "Oh no, I went for one event, or I didn't find a way to contribute to the association." Then I'm like, if you've done neither of those, how are you going to benefit? You can't just say, "I joined a member, I paid the fee, I'm going to start reaping the benefits."
Yeah, that'd be like saying, same with an AI. If you say I bought the premium version of AI, therefore I'm smarter. It's like, have you used it? No, no, no. But I have the premium version, so
Yeah.
like I'm smarter. You
True.
know, based on what we've talked about, it
Yeah.
sounds like with this change in AI, the things that we really need to focus on is connection. Something that AI can maybe help you to remember, help you to maybe do it more at scale, but maybe the whole thing that we should get away from is trying to use AI to make us better and just really focus on being a person first and foremost. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You need to focus on yeah, on building a net. I mean, being a person that is known for a particular field. Like for example, I've been trying to build myself up to be someone who is trusted in marketing in my part of the world, right? So if you need digital marketing, you would think of me, uh, right? So that's something I've been working on building up. So the idea is that, yeah, I mean, with all of these AI things, you need to build yourself as someone who can be trusted for a particular task, for a particular field. Make sure that you are contributing to that particular field, to the industry. You're building a network, not just within your industry, but also, like you mentioned, in jiu-jitsu or things that interest you. Build a network, add value to the network, connect the people within the network, and play the long game. And eventually you will thrive, and you will do well in the age of in this um, evolving times, in this very challenging times.
Yeah, I think we should double click real quick on once you've found something that you like, you're in the connection. What do you mean by adding value? Because I feel like a lot of people they go into these networking events with what can I get out of this? And I can tell anybody that listens, if you try to make a connection with what can I get out of this other person, you don't have a connection. Like you have something much more fickle than that. So what can somebody do in order to come in to add value and like genuinely try to do that? Because I feel like your intention, the aim that you set, is probably the most important thing. But I'd
Yeah.
love to hear your thought on it.
I agree with you. So in the past, I used to be the same. I used to be like, okay, what can I take? Right? What can I get out of this interaction? What can I take? Oh, okay, this person is not a decision maker. This person doesn't have a budget. Let me move on to the next person, to the next person in the room. Right? So it's all about taking. I think I shifted from that, and I started asking people, like when someone is at a networking event, it's like they're there for a reason, right? So I'm like, who are you looking to meet? Um, what is it? What is the one challenge that you're having? And then you listen and see what's the challenge they're having, who are they looking to meet, and see if there's anybody in your network that you could connect them to, right? And yeah, you could do that. And I think sometimes you need to have an abundance mindset as well, like in the past I used to be like, oh, this person is my competitor, I'm going to be not giving him full information, or I'm going to be holding back some resources and not make the introduction. But I think the pie is big enough. I've made introductions to, like, sometimes when I can't do a project, or I feel I'm not the right agency for the project, I actually refer them to some of my other agency owner friends. In the past I would not do that, but now I do that. Like in the last, like, X number. When I was early days, I wouldn't do it, but now I do it because I've learned that the pie is big enough, and you need to have this abundance mindset. So yeah, I'd say move away from what you can take to what you can give
Yeah,
to
I think
people. Yeah,
I think it's important when you do give those referrals, you feel like I'm giving something up, but there's also, like, it's very hardwired into human beings, reciprocity. And like, you give to me, therefore I will give back to you. I'm in some way in your
yeah,
debt. So it all comes back around. It all comes back in the wash, as they like to say. Like,
yeah,
it comes back up. And I feel that too many people, they're so focused on the short term, what can I get out of it right now, especially in this age of AI, because people feel, and I think this has a lot to do with economics, which is a completely different discussion, that the pie is shrinking and I need to get mine before it's gone.
yeah, yeah,
But I think if we kind of have, and if we believe that, then we're going to make it come true.
yeah,
But if enough people believe that this pie is large enough that we can all eat off of it, if we
yeah,
can remember on our connection and not try to take more than we need, or at least more than is necessary, we can all, eat here and be just fine. But we have to be able to remember that we're all part of the same group. We're all
yeah.
part of the same people. No one exists in a vacuum.
Exactly. I mean, there's also this thing about people will always, like, before they do something, they'll be like, oh, what am I going to get out of it? In the sense that before I join this organization, or before I do this particular workshop, what am I going to get out of it? The thing is, you don't know until you take the action. A lot of times, people that I meet or people that I coach, they will have the same thing. They'll be like, hey, there's this workshop, but what am I going to get out of it? I'm like, you don't know. You have to go. You have to walk the path. Only when you walk the path will things reveal themselves to you. It's not. You can't be like, oh, before I do this, I need to already know what is going to be the outcome. You don't know. It's like I think it's like about, you walk the path and you let go of all attachment to any outcomes. And then things will reveal themselves.
Yeah, that's very much a Buddhist standpoint, which I absolutely love that you said that, because there are too many people that walk through life wanting certainty. Like, they want to know what's going to happen. And
Yeah,
something that I've taken from the Stoic philosophy is, you don't control what happens to you. You can only control how you respond.
yeah,
Too many people, they'll go through life, I think it's out of fear, because they want to know what's going to happen. But it'd be like watching every single movie, but before you go and see the movie, you need to, like, know how it ends. Before you read any book, you need to flip to the last page to know how
yeah,
it ends. It takes a lot of the joy out of the experience when you know how it ends. And in truth, in a movie, in a book, you have that ability to know how it ends.
yeah,
But in reality, there is no way to know how it. I mean, I know how it's going to end for all of us. It's going to be like, each one of us is going to die. Like, that's how it's going
yeah,
to end.
yeah,
And even there, I don't know. Like, maybe we continue on in some other way, fashion, or form.
yeah,
Um, Razi, as we come to a close here, I'd love to just kind of hear, we've moved and talked about a bunch of different things during this
yeah.
conversation today. What is the main thing you want people to take away from your book? What is the main thing you want someone to take away from this conversation that they can go out into the world that is ever changing, that AI is coming, that there is things that are happening faster than they ever have before. What can someone do to start to feel comfortable with that?
I would say, well, it is. You're not alone in feeling the fear. You're not alone in feeling the fear of being redundant, of being made, of your skills. You know, all the skills you've acquired over so many years to be made, like to be not worth anything on the marketplace. Is the fear is very natural. Um, but what we need to do is we need to look at nurturing connections, building connections, going out there and like doubling down on humanity. Like the AI doesn't know, doesn't have lived experience. The AI cannot make these kind of observations that only we as humans can make. They cannot make these human connections that um, we can make. So, what I would tell people to take away from this is yes, it is. Everyone is afraid. It's normal to to be feeling afraid, but there is an opportunity where we need to go out there and start building up all about building connections, adding value, being a trusted person, and you will thrive in the age of AI. And be curious, like what Chris was mentioning earlier. Like be curious. There is a lot of opportunity here, and the only way for you um, to navigate this is to be on the journey, to let go of that certainty, to let go of knowing what the outcome will be, but be on the journey, and eventually things will present themselves, you know. And be open to trying new things, be open to trying these AI tools. I mean, the worst thing I think you could do is to say, I don't want to look at this at all, you know. I want to completely isolate myself. I think then you'd miss out on the opportunity of what this age could bring to you.
Yeah, I think that many people, they think what I see is like what's out there, what's true, but like you don't really see what's out there. You see what you're looking for. So if
Yep.
you want to look at AI and see that it is bad, that it's wrong, that it's awful, and that it's going to destroy the world, you will find that. But if you want to see that this is an opportunity, you will find that as well. Like
Exactly.
there's no truth on that. There's no divine truth. It's just figuring out what is that you want to see, and you're going to find it. So you need to go out there, take your lumps, and kind of and figure it out, and know that you're not alone. Because I think too many people right now, when they go online, it's meant to make you feel alone. But being out and going out
Yeah.
to what you've talked about today, making human connection makes you realize I'm not alone. We're all in this
Exactly.
together.
Exactly. Very well said.
Razi, you've been so generous with myself and with our audience today. I'd love to give you the podcast for a moment to be able to shout out your new book, your website, anything like that. That podcast is yours.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for tuning into this episode. So, my book, Winning in the Age of AI, is going to be it's already available on Amazon. It talks about how in the world where AI is giving everyone the same capabilities, how you and your name can stand out. So you can get it on Amazon. You can find more of my work on LinkedIn. So you can go to linkedin.com/, Razy Shah, and you can drop me a connect or follow there, and you can see my posts on a regular basis where I talk about marketing. I talk about business in Southeast Asia, and I also talk about how to navigate the world of AI. That's
Wonderful.
it.
And
Yeah.
those links will be down in the description for our audience as well. Razi, we are the FI guys here, and FI stands for financial independence. And what we've noticed over years of interviewing with people and talking with different individuals is that financial independence means something very different to every person that I end up speaking with. So, Razi, my final question to you is: what does financial independence mean to you?
Financial independence for me is being able to wake up every morning and not having to worry um, about income, about expenses, not basically being free to do all the things that I want to do. You know, go have a coffee. You know, have don't need to check my emails. Just be free from all the things that that work requires. So financial independence would be where you make enough money to cover your expenses, and you make that money through, I don't know, through dividends, through your unit trust, and you don't need to focus on work that you don't enjoy. You can focus on work that you do enjoy, right?
Yeah. Razy Shah, thank you so much for joining me here on the Fi Guys podcast. To our listeners, please be sure to like and subscribe. And most importantly, share this podcast with one person that you think would benefit from hearing Razy Shah's words and understanding that there is a way to win in the age of AI. And it's by focusing and double clicking on our humanity rather than just focusing on what technology can do for us. Razy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guest, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.